Phil Sikes on the line. So, Phil, thanks for joining us.
Phil?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thanks for being with us again. Sorry about that. We were just talking about the Hello Friends Jim Nance does. But just talk a little bit about, I guess, the season. Wow, it went by fast. And the trip to New York that the Tigers had. And then how fun was that for you guys?
Oh, goodness. What a season it was. It was really, it may have gone by fast, but it was a long, long season for the team. And it started way back in the summer and when they were preparing to go to Italy on a 10-day trip. And they started practicing for that in mid to late July. So, I mean, if you think about it, it's been about a 9-month grind for this group. So really excited to see them kind of make it back to postseason first time in a couple of years, and then to make it as far as they did to the semifinals in the NIT, I thought was a very positive step for the direction of the program.
Absolutely. Making any kind of postseason when you're picked to finish 14th is a huge accomplishment. But you mentioned the trip to Italy. I know that's old news, but if you could tell our listeners a little bit about what happened on that trip and how much of a help you think that was for the team.
Sure. I think it was a huge help to the team. First of all, it was every 4 years the NCAA allows a team to take a foreign trip, and you can either do it during the summertime like we did, or you can do kind of a shorter trip during the actual year. Like one year I went with Oliver Purnell's team to the Bahamas, and we did a weekend excursion, and you're allowed 10 practices up to that, organized 2.5-hour practices before that, and so we did that. Got that in, and from August 8th to 18th, we took the team to Italy, and where we toured 4 or 5 different cities and played 4 games. You don't practice any on the trip itself. It's more about seeing the sights, learning in, and soaking up a different culture. And it was a tremendous experience just from that standpoint for our players, a lot of which have hardly ever traveled within the U.S., let alone overseas. I think it was just about everyone's first trip outside of the African-born players on the team. But, yeah, it was just a great experience. In the 4 games, Clemson played against weaker competition. It wasn't up to the standards you'd see in today's college basketball. The teams were basically a little bit disorganized club teams, to be honest with you. But nonetheless, it did give a chance to get guys in some game action, game experience. And I think you saw that certainly pay off a lot this year with guys like Landry Noko, his development, Rod Hall, DeMarcus Harrison. Guys played extremely well in Italy, and I think you saw a lot of carryover from that in the summer in terms of confidence within their games itself. And it was, of course, great for a guy like KJ McDaniels, too, to get a lot of attention and learn what he had to do better moving forward coming off the Italy trip. And I thought that it was beneficial to him as well. So, all in all, a great trip and experience for the team, and it was pretty neat that, coming back in from Italy, our first stop into the U.S. was in New York at JFK Airport, and then to end the season in New York, I thought was kind of an interesting twist for this team, but certainly a great experience there last week as well.
So, Phil, you mentioned the trip to New York and, the great season this team had. We talked about the impact of Italy. Talk about what you think the impact of the NIT Final Four will be moving forward with this team who has no seniors and can maybe return every player on the team to next year's squad.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing about it. Is it's all about taking a young team and kind of using it as a springboard for the next season and beyond. Fran Fraschilla, the ESPN analyst who was doing the game, he actually emceed the banquet Monday night where the teams were honored for making it to the Final Four for the NIT, and one of the things he talked about is he said, use this experience as a springboard for your program, and I think that in most cases in Clemson's history, they've done that. I think the last time we were in the NIT in 2007, if you remember, the next 4 seasons after that, Clemson was in the NCAA tournament. I'm not predicting that same success this time around. What I am saying is that usually when you have a younger team and you play in a postseason such as the NIT and you make it as far as you did, that game experience carries over and that confidence carries over into the next season and sometimes beyond. And I think that certainly Coach Brownell and his staff, they're hoping that's the case with this group. I thought that it was great to get it worked out really well in Clemson's favor, obviously, to get 3 home games, obviously with Illinois and their building renovations there at Assembly Hall in Champaign. They were not able to host a second-round game, so Clemson Had some good fortune on that, but I thought the games against Illinois, Belmont, where you had to come back and win these tremendous games at the end, I thought were really good for the team. Just kind of became a rallying cry, I guess, rallying point for the fan base. I mean, to see the crowds that came out to support these guys, 10,000 strong for both the Illinois and Belmont games. Illinois at 11 a.m. on a Sunday in the South. Are you kidding me? 10,000 people. That was a tremendous feat that I think Clemson Nation should be very proud of, coming out and supporting this team. And I think that people saw some of the hardships that the guys had to end the season against Pittsburgh at home over a controversial call at the buzzer shot by a Pittsburgh player. And then a little bit of disappointment in the ACC tournament. It looked like you're going to get a win over Duke, and then maybe you get to the semifinals against NC State. Who knows what could have happened? You get a win there, and next thing you know, you're going to feel like an NCAA tournament team. And to have your guts ripped out right there in the end with the ball stripped away, to see Duke get a similar call on the other end and actually step up to the free throw line to win the game was definitely devastating for our guys. But to Coach Brownell's credit, one of the things he did very well, I thought, was that the day after, or 2 days after that, on Selection Sunday, instead of sulking about it, he had his team over to his house. He basically had an NIT celebration, basically, because we knew at that point Clemson wasn't going to get an NCAA tournament, and obviously he didn't want his guys to feel down in the dumps like they hadn't achieved anything this season. At that point, you're looking at a team that had, 20 wins at that point, and so he just wanted to celebrate the success they had coming off of a very tough 2012-13 season, and it was really neat to be there with them during that, and they were all excited to be back in postseason play, and I think the NIT experience will prove invaluable for a lot of guys. I mean, the best thing about it is not so much the practice experience, because by this point in the season, teams are worn down. They're not practicing nearly as long. But getting game experience, 4 extra games for a guy like Austin Ajukwa, that's 50 to 60 minutes there that you weren't going to get of him playing against really high-caliber D1 competition. Landry Noko is a guy that gets 4 extra starts and probably 125 minutes all told in the games, and so he just gets to continue that development and that confidence that we're seeing. So I think that just getting those guys in the games and watching them play well, hopefully carries over a lot to next season. There's a lot to look forward to if you're a Clemson basketball fan.
Right, and really playing against the legend in Larry Brown on Tuesday night, had a chance to win the ball game. Just some shots didn't fall, and then you had saw the picture of you even had Bob Knight compliment. When you got the general compliment, you know you're doing something right. And I think it was a great experience to write on that. And let's just talk a little bit about I heard KJ McDaniels on Roy Philpott the other day, and he really was pressing him. You know, he asked probably 6 times if he's going pro, and then he kept saying I hadn't thought about it. I believed old KJ. You know, he probably hadn't thought about it. But when is his timetable going to be for that?
Yeah, it's almost impossible not to think about it when you see your name thrown around there. There's certain websites and people they're in the know in the business that have him rated as a first rounder. There's some that I've seen just as recently as a couple days ago that don't have him at all. So I think that there's a little bit of mixed feelings on his status and his where he's at right now as a projection. So I think that's just something that Coach Brownell told the media following the game the other day that they've sought out the NBA Draft Advisory Board. Similar to football, they can send you information about where you think you'd be drafted. And so they filled out the necessary paperwork for that, and they may or may not have already heard back. I'm not entirely sure of that. But basically, underclassmen have until April 27th to declare, and then on that date, you can work out for teams for a couple months. If you do not have an agent, you can still withdraw by 10 days before the draft. Now, however, if you were to declare by April 27th and sign an agent, obviously his days as a collegiate player are done. I'm not saying that's the case necessarily at all with KJ. I do think it's going to be a conflicted decision for the young man. He's very, very humble, comes from a good family. He's going to have a lot of people in his camp telling him that he's ready right now to be a first rounder. Then he's going to have a lot of people telling him there's things he's got to work on. And he said himself after the game the other night, he's got a lot he can improve on. He knows that his ball handling probably needs to get better for the next level. He knows that his shot's got to get better for the next level. There's a lot of things that he does that you just can't teach. And it's that potential and that athleticism that has a lot of GMs and scouts very, very excited about what he could offer teams. So I think this is going to be a conflicted young man the next couple of days, next couple of weeks, however long he decides to take on this. Not really sure a timetable on his decision, but like I said, he's got a few weeks before he absolutely has to make the decision. So we'll see moving forward where he decides to go. I wouldn't be surprised to see it go either way, quite honestly. He knows what type of team's coming back here. I know he loves playing with the team that we had this year, and when you add a couple more talented guys into the mix next year, he knows how good Clemson can be, and I think that will weigh a part on his decision. I know that a lot of people, think it's always just about the money, but I promise you, with a guy like KJ, that the chance to come back and lead his team to the NCAA tournament, the chance to come back and potentially work toward that degree from Clemson, I think those are big things for him too. I mean, not a lot of people out there thought Vic Beasley was coming back after the season he had with the Tiger football team, and he was projected to be a second-round pick. And so I look at a guy like that, and I think, who knows with KJ. We'll see what happens and see how it plays out. But, the accuracy of the information he gets over the next few weeks from the feedback his family is getting from scouts and NBA people, what his coaches are telling him, all that's going to weigh heavily on his decision. But ultimately, it's got to be his call. I mean, he's going to consult with his family. He'll consult with Coach Brownell and Coach Grant, who recruited him. But at the end of the day, it's got to be something he's at peace with. And I think that he'll take his time and he won't make a rash decision. He's a pretty bright young man, and certainly I know around here we'd love to see him come back selfishly for another season for sure.
Well, Phil, you touched on KJ and the recruits coming in a little bit, so let's talk more about the future of this team.
Okay.
A lot of people saying this year Clemson had the good record. They had a quality win over Duke and a fairly good showing in the ACC tournament, but some people saying the strength of schedule is what kept them out.
Yeah.
Next year, Auburn looks to be better with Bruce Pearl coming in. South Carolina will be better, and Clemson also getting back into the ACC Big Ten Challenge and the Paradise Jam tournament. So what else can Clemson fans look forward to on the schedule as to how that strength of schedule might be improved a little bit?
Yeah, and then you also got Arkansas obviously coming to Clemson too. That's a return game. Those were both home and homes with Auburn and Arkansas. I think both those teams will be improved. Like you mentioned, Bruce Pearl coming in as a shot in the arm for Auburn's recruiting, and I think it probably will excite their fan base, and they'll rally behind him, and I think that he'll do good things there. He's a proven winner for sure, and I think Arkansas is a team that was on the doorstep of the NCAA tournament this year. If it weren't for a bad loss in the SEC tournament to South Carolina, I think they might have had a chance, or actually a couple of games before that too. They had a couple of tough losses down the stretch, but they were very close to knocking on the door for the NCAA tournament. They don't lose a whole lot either. So I think that those two teams coming in are going to provide good challenges. I think that getting in the ACC Big Ten Challenge is huge. Clemson didn't play in it last year for the first time ever since the event began back in 1999, and you have to think, usually they do it based on teams that are close to your RPI, so you got to think that Clemson is going to play somebody in that mid to upper tier of the Big Ten, and that's obviously the strongest conference there was this year. I wouldn't be surprised to see Clemson play a Minnesota and Iowa, a team like that. That hasn't been announced yet, but it will be soon, and I think that's just another great game. That could be at home or it could be away. It just depends on other circumstances as well, but the schedule will be good, and it'll be a little bit better, a little bit tougher. This year's schedule was a little bit easier by design. He wanted to give the team, more chances at wins to build some confidence. And I think that at the end of the year, I think we can all look at the schedule and say, that was probably the right way to go. And I think maybe a lot of people were surprised by how well Clemson did, and you could say very easily that, a little bit stronger schedule might have put you in the tournament. But I think that you don't want to look back and have any regrets, and I don't think Coach Brownell or his staff or his players will have any regrets on the schedule, because I think it helped prepare them for the ACC slate, where they were able to put together a 10-win season and build for the future, and it landed at a postseason berth ultimately, and that was the goal, play in March with a chance to advance.
Right. And like they were playing on Tuesday, I know there was only 8 teams in the country, or 8 teams left in both tournaments. So,
yeah.
But I mean, hindsight's 20/20 on that deal. I mean, you beat Duke at home. With a horrendous call in the ACC tournament, you can thank John Swafford for that. But on one side of things like that happen, and it's been going on for a long time. But to be back, I think that game was incredible. To be down by like 10 points and be able to come back. But, yeah, so, I mean, I think it's just been a great season for Clemson basketball, and I really look forward to a great future in the last year of Littlejohn. It looks like next year. So, and just talk, last question before we let you get out, just talk about how that home crowd, I mean, if we can get that kind of draw next year to more of the games, I think it'll make just an even bigger difference. That place was rocking last Tuesday.
Man, it creates an interesting dilemma for the folks in charge and administration because, you know, if you noticed, it was all general admission seating. Tickets were obviously a lot cheaper for the NIT games than they are for season tickets and single game tickets during the year. But man, what a difference it makes to have just the rabid fans come in and not only come in, but they all get close to the action and they're all into the game and engaged from the outset. And I think that a lot of times with season ticket holders, they bring a lot more value to your well-being as a program, and I'm talking financially, of course. But then on the other hand, it doesn't create as good a game atmosphere because they don't always feel like they have to come. And so I think it provides a unique look this off season by administration, our ticket office people, on kind of what they want to do moving forward. I hope that in some ways they alter the process possibly of tickets, because I think that those two atmospheres, Sunday against Illinois and then last Tuesday against Belmont, were just incredible and showed, you know, if you get the fan base rally behind you, what kind of difference it can make, because those are games where Clemson's down 4 or 5 points heading in the last 5 minutes. They don't win those games without the raucous crowd. I'm just telling you. I mean, if that's a game earlier in the year where there's only 6,000-7,000 in there, they're probably not going to win that game. But yeah, it just makes a tremendous difference. And yeah, like you mentioned, I still think we're waiting to hear on officially what's going to happen and when they'll break ground on the rebuild for Littlejohn and where they'll actually play during the season away. None of that's been finalized yet, but if it is indeed the last season of Littlejohn Coliseum, hopefully it'll make it a good one, a memorable one to go out in, and one where it sees Clemson put together another type of run like they had this year, and one that ultimately ends in the NCAA tournament, hopefully.
Right, agree 1,000% on that, and we just thanks for coming on all year. We really appreciate it, and the great work you do for the athletic department goes unnoticed most of the time, but thanks so much for all that and giving us the passes for Georgia Tech and all year at Clemson. We really appreciate it, and I guess enjoy finally some golf weather or whatever coming up and basketball. But enjoy the Final Four, like we were saying, in North Texas. So
North Texas,
not Dallas, but North Texas. So, but no, enjoy that, and thanks again so much, and you know, I have. Good luck to the team in the off season as they'll finish up recruiting and stuff like that. But thanks again for coming on all year. We appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate you guys having us, and you know, keep spreading the word. Love what you guys are doing, and appreciate you having us on and talking so much about Tiger basketball. I really do think the future is looking good, and it'll look even better if KJ comes back. But nonetheless, there's going to be improvements either way, and I think that there's a lot to look forward to.
Totally agree with that. Thanks again, Phil. We appreciate it.
Yeah, take care.
Okay, all right, bye-bye. Take care, Phil. And that's Phil Sikes, Clemson associate, our basketball SID associate in terms of the whole athletic department. But, wow, that was a great way to cap off a great season, I thought.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely. But, no, he's so knowledgeable about, you know, just everything that happens at Clemson and just